we are here at NearCon Lisbon, and I'm super excited to interview Marie Comijn, CEO of Near Foundation. Thank you so much for taking your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, how would you describe Near, let's say, in 3 words?
In 3 words, I would say simple, scalable, secure. Actually, no, I would say create without limits.
Wow, that's a good one. Yeah, that's
create
really
without
nice.
limits.
That's good. And the topic or the name of this event is Building Beyond Hype. Can you elaborate a little bit more on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we are in a bear market, right? Like, it's fair to say that the crypto market has crashed. And so the first phase that we had before this bear market was a lot of hype. Like, you had a lot of FOMO and people in all directions. And so what we wanted to convey, which you can see at NearCon, is that this is very much about building, right? And therefore the theme building beyond the hype, building things that are going to last, continuing to build to create value.
Yeah, that's definitely very valuable. Amazing. And what are the most recent updates in Near ecosystem? For example, I know there was a panel about JavaScript. Is anything else you can?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, quite a lot of very big news have hit the ground at NearCon. So pre-NearCon, we already saw that actually Coinbase has launched for Near, which is amazing. We have an Earn campaign, which is also enabling Coinbase users to actually learn about what Near is. At NearCon, we've announced actually that we have now the next generation of sharding, which is also very spectacular because more shards are being added, but without any change of experience to the devs and to the users. JavaScript was announced, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, which now opens the doors to millions of developers. And here at NearCon, we've also announced, the launch of an entertainment fund, because we believe that actually there's going to be a lot in gaming and entertainment that's going to happen. And I could keep going, right? Because we also announced a Women in Web3 innovation list, and so on. So there's been a lot of super exciting stuff happening.
So what do you think, what is your vision on how to get Web3 to reach mass adoption?
Yeah, great question. So to get Web3 to mass adoption, we do need, first and foremost, it needs to be usable, right? So, and usable, it needs to be so that we don't have to talk anymore about what is a layer 1 and what is a protocol, and it just needs to work, right? And so usability is actually fundamental, simplicity of being able to actually interact with what's happening. And then the second part is we need actually major breakthrough cases, right? So we need to show that, for example, if you do something as simple as walking and you get points for that, then you're embarked on a journey on blockchain and crypto, right? Things that simple where you don't need to think actually what is it and what am I doing? So we do need that, and therefore that means also having Web2 companies come on this journey and start actually thinking how do they change their business model to become Web3.
Yeah, cool. And what do you think about how important to be carbon neutral then for this to for Web3 to be adopted as well?
Yeah, so fantastic question also, because the reality is that where we're at right now for the world and as a society is a turning point. And therefore, if we don't think sustainability, then it's not even worth embarking on that journey. And I think actually the beauty of what's happening in particular on the Near protocol is the fact that we are carbon neutral, and the fact that we take that at heart and at core enables us to actually attract also projects that are starting to help actually think through how do you do carbon credit and how do you do that in a way that is sustainable. So for mass adoption, it's fundamental from the start to think about having something that is sustainable.
And then how would you think then Web3 projects can work effectively with Web2 projects as partners?
The reality is that there is, it's quite different how it functions, Web2 versus Web3. Right? For example, a Web2 company will be very top-down, and that's how things are done. And then when a Web2 company interacts with the Web3 world, it's very decentralized, and you have lots of different parts that are open source that you need to go and pick. But coming from that world to getting into that world requires a mindset shift. Then there is also another very big point, which is thinking through what is your tokenomics. Because in Web2, you might have a business model that works a certain way. That doesn't mean it's going to work in actually Web3, right? So you need to reinvent where is my revenue coming from? How do I create something that's sustainable into that way? So I would say those are the 2 biggest things that we see is thinking through tokenomics and thinking through how are you organized and how do you therefore transform your organization to going into a Web3 mode.
So what would be your best advice for a Web2 company that wants to go on Web3?
Yes. I think the best advice would be, one, educate yourself, and it starts with the top, right? It's actually so many Web2 companies are still thinking, well, Web3 is all about Bitcoin, right? This is crypto blockchain. It's not. It's way beyond that, right? So educate yourself, start looking into what is it out there that is threatening your business model, because chances are every vertical is actually being threatened. And number two, what are the use cases that you could start in your own business structure, start thinking about, and maybe do an MVP, right? And start doing that. And the other part I would say, start hiring talent that can come through and that can come and do that. I think it's also similar to what we saw when companies were going from not being digital to being digital. So when retail was not digital, and then all retailers were thinking, oh, now we need to have an online shop. That transformation happened in a certain way. I think we're going to see the same transformation that needs to happen. Now you're digital, but how do you get into the metaverse? It's a different transition and transformation.
Would you ever personally consider being a mentor to the project, or just individual who wants to grow and learn more about crypto?
So time is limited for everybody.
I'm just trying to understand how much a priority that would be then.
Yeah, so I do, I pick up the phone, I help. So for example, when I'm here at NearCon, whatever question I have, I help. I'm passionate about helping women in particular. And so that's where, if you ask me if I need to dedicate more attention to a project, it would probably be a project that's led by women.
Okay, well, we are here to understand, actually.
Yeah.
Could be the case. And the very last question, could you tell me, why would people join your community? What's the most exciting thing out there?
Okay, another amazing question. Look, maybe a little story. So last year, when we did NearCon, I hadn't joined yet Near, and I was coming in Lisbon incognito, to look at the community and to try to understand what was going on. And I was taken back by, this was a beautiful community. It was super diverse, super inclusive. Wherever you were going, people were sharing their experiences. They were not judging. They were actually, explaining in an open way that made me feel also not stupid, because sometimes crypto can be quite intimidating, and nobody was talking about the price ever of anything. And so that, I think, is the core and the heart of the Near community. And when you look today at NearCon, which, an event like that is the best way to get a representation of what Near is. There is 176 countries that are represented. There is 38% of women. You go around the floor, it's super friendly. People are making new friends, are connections and going. And I think that's what Near is about.
Yes, totally. It seems very easygoing, super approachable. Even being here and interviewing you, I feel very privileged, and it's really nice. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for the great question.